Sorry.
No, I like that sound. That was good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to reuse that now for something else.
Yeah, that's what I sound like when I get out of the chair.
Hello and welcome to episode 29 of When Records Ruled, the podcast where we share our love of rock music and pop culture from the 70s and 80s and take a few B-side tracks down memory lane along the way. So get out those liner notes and pull back that micro machine to let her rip because it's time to hit the play button. I'm your host, David Norris, and joining me on this flashback musical road trip are my good friends Brian Strom and Lance Schwartz. Anybody remember the micro machine? I can't even say it. The micro machine man?
The tongue twister.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Could talk.
No. Wait, about what year was the micro machine guy?
Mid to late 80s. He also did some FedEx commercials. That's where he got really famous. His name was John Machida Jr. He was the world's fastest talker until like 1990. It was like Guinness Book of World Records fast.
Okay.
He had the ability to articulate 586 words per minute.
Wow.
Which was insane because you
I
could
probably
barely
don't
keep up.
say that many in a day.
No, me either.
He's kind of like the predecessor to AI or something like that. But only a real human.
Yes. All right, guys. On today's episode, we will be discussing the Deep Purple album, Machine Head. We'll hear what was happening around the time of the album's release, wrap it up with a personal rating of the album, and then we'll end the show with our Remember When segment. But before we get into talking about the album, Brian is here with some information and fun facts on what was happening around the time this album was released.
This is an early one for us. This may be the earliest
I think
episode we've done.
Yeah.
You guys weren't even born yet when it was recorded.
Yeah, we were.
Barely.
2 years. I was 2 years old. So this Machine Head was released the week of March 30th, 1972. So
I was a little over one.
I was almost two.
Yeah.
Lance?
I was
Probably
17.
That's right.
72, so 7.
So this probably predates all our radio listening days. So
Not listening
we probably caught onto this years after.
Not listening to any Deep Purple when I was 5 or 6 or 7 or 17 for that matter.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Some of the top bands of the time were Paul Simon, T-Rex,
Bang-a-gong.
Yes,
Yeah.
Don McLean, and Santana.
Yeah. Awesome. Very enduring. I'm wondering if do that one more time.
Paul Simon, T-Rex, Yes, Don McLean, and Santana.
I would venture to say they're all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe not Don McLean, but I kind of think he might be.
Oh, interesting. T-Rex?
I think so.
They're throwing everybody in there now, so, you know.
I'd have to look that up, but I would, pretty sure.
Looking it up.
Yeah.
We'll report later.
All right. Top 3 songs on Billboard's Top 40. Number 3, we have The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Hey, that's a great song.
But can you name who it was by?
No.
Yeah. Robert John.
I've heard of Robert John.
I do remember hearing that on the radio.
He had maybe a couple other hits.
Yeah. Number 2, Heart of Gold.
Is it Vogelberg?
No.
Just say it.
Neil Young.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Great song, too.
And number 1, A Horse with No Name.
America?
Yeah. And back to T-Rex.
Yeah.
2020, T-Rex was inducted into the Rock and Roll
interesting.
Hall
Not
of Fame.
long ago.
Lance Facts.
Pretty
Hashtag
good.
Lance Facts.
That's a pretty stellar group that you mentioned.
Pretty crazy. So we were kind of in that acoustic kind of singer-songwriter kind of phase in the early 70s.
That was a great phase.
Was there a lot of Yes stuff like that too? Or were they
Not
still
so
kind of
much.
proggy?
They were still proggy.
Okay.
All right. Some of the TV shows around the time, we have All in the Family, Adam 12, which is one of my brother's favorites, Bob Newhart Show,
Yeah. First, yeah.
Lance's Lunchbox,
Partridge Family.
Partridge Family,
Nice.
and one of my favorites, The Wonderful World of Disney.
Oh, that Sunday nights,
That was awesome.
that was the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure was.
I do remember watching an episode of Adam 12, though,
Yeah.
a black and white TV.
Oh, that
Kind of a
was
crossover with Emergency.
Yes.
Totally.
Together.
Yes.
It
Well,
was,
they might have been like back to back.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
I think they might have been, yeah. And Adam 12 was in syndication like after school when I was a kid.
That's exactly when I watched it.
Like Starsky and Hutch.
Right.
You want another little fact about those songwriters? And
Yeah.
So I was wondering about Don McLean as well. So Don McLean did not make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he is a Grammy Award honoree and a Songwriter Hall of Fame member.
Oh, okay.
So American Pie, it
That's
goes a long
Classic.
way.
Yeah.
Sure does. All right, movies around this time period. The Godfather, The Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
You seen that? I've never seen that one.
I have never seen
Seen
that.
The Godfather.
Cabaret.
Never seen that one either.
How about this one? Deliverance.
Yeah.
Yep. A little scary. Lot scary,
Very
actually.
scary.
Creepy.
Burt
Yeah,
Reynolds was in Deliverance.
Burt Reynolds,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
And what's his name?
Beatty. Beatty?
Warren Beatty? Was he in
No,
there?
it wasn't Warren Beatty. I can't remember his
Anyway.
name. The big guy.
So anyway, that's what I got.
All right, guys, it's time we dive into the Deep Purple album, Machine Head. Here we go. So good. Yes. All right, to get us started, Lance has some background details to share about the album.
Well, as we already mentioned, we are reviewing the album by Deep Purple called Machine Head or Machine Shed.
Is that what the
Like
nickname
at
you
my
had for
grandpa's
it?
farm, he had the machine shed.
Yeah.
Wasn't it
What is a
rest-
machine head?
Yeah, are we going to get into that?
I don't know.
Because I don't know.
I know what it is.
I know what it is.
I know what a gearhead is. Is it similar?
No.
No.
No, Brian.
Oh, I
what-
think
You do?
I-
What do you think, Lance?
All right.
It's part of the equipment reg for the
Nope.
guitar.
Nope.
Nope.
Well,
No.
That's what I read.
No, you're thinking of like the head of the amp or something, right?
right.
What is it, Brian?
It's like the tuning thing on like a guitar
Yeah,
or whatever.
That's a machine head.
That's the machine head.
Like the little,
Little
tuning
gear
peg
in it.
Yeah. Yep. Simple enough, but sounds cool.
Yeah. So
Sounds a little tougher than a tuning thing that you turn.
The
Machine
twisty
head
tune.
sounds mean and big. All right, what do you got, Lance?
Sorry.
just listening to you guys.
yeah.
It's fine with me.
Well, shut up now.
So we'll get into a little bit more about the recording later, but let's just say it was an interesting process. But in Montreux, Switzerland is where they recorded this. And as Brian mentioned, released in March of 72 on a label called Purple Records. So I'm guessing it was their own label.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I didn't look that up either.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming since it's their
Yeah.
sixth album, they didn't really have a producer per se, did they?
No, Brian was mentioning before, it was self-produced.
Right.
So that's pretty impressive too,
Yeah.
considering the quality of the music here that we will talk about in a bit. The lineup for this particular album featured 5 players. Richie Blackmore on guitar. Richie Blackmore went on to fame. Well, he was famous with this band, but also went on to further fame in a band called Rainbow. I think a lot of our listeners probably have heard of Rainbow. And then Ian Gillan, right? Not Gillian.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Gillan. Ian Gillan on vocals. Roger Glover was on bass. John Lord on the unbelievable keyboards.
Yeah.
And Ian Pace, if I'm pronouncing
Pacey.
that. Pacey?
Yeah, I heard him pronounce it Pacey.
Okay. On drums.
Unless that was kind of their nickname for him.
Come on, Pacey.
Yeah.
Kind of like hockey or baseball. They all...
Well, that's a cool name for someone doing percussion, right? Keep the pace.
Yeah,
right?
There you
Pace,
go.
yeah.
Yeah. So Machine Head was Deep Purple's most commercially successful album, sold 2 million copies. So not a ton.
No.
But
I was a little surprised at that.
Yeah.
There were fewer people back then to buy. That's right.
The population was
much smaller. So in like today's numbers, that would be like 4 million copies.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Due to our population.
I
now.
think so. Yeah. We'll
So
give
4
them the
million.
benefit of the doubt.
It's inflation.
We've just gone quadruple platinum now.
Yeah. They should be thanking
Congratulations.
us.
Yeah.
Deep
Ooh,
Purple.
wow.
We got put together a new plaque record for him to hang on their wall.
The album did top the charts in a number of countries, including the UK, their home base. Some would say it was influential in the development of heavy metal. Interesting.
Yeah.
I suppose in a way.
In a way. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
A few weeks back, we talked about Lester Bangs. Remember Lester Bangs from Rolling
Yes.
Stone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a bit about the critical acceptance of this album. Was met with positive reviews by Lester Bangs. Praised the lyrics, it says, to Highway Star and Space Truckin'. Interesting. I kind of thought Space Truckin's lyrics were a little corny, but maybe we can get into that later. And he was also, big on just the playing of the music itself. But he says he was less complimentary about the lyrics of the remaining songs. Really? If you want to talk about storytelling when we get into this,
Right.
there's some serious storytelling going on.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't privy to the backstory behind one of the
Maybe
tracks
not.
that we'll talk about.
True. Yeah.
Here's another good one, guys. Kerrang!
Yeah,
Our
let's go.
favorite
Yeah.
German music magazine ranked Machine Head at number 35 on their list of, you want to guess what
Heavy
list?
metal.
Heavy metal.
You got it. Heavy metal albums of all time. In a magazine, British magazine called Observer Music Monthly, a guy named Ozzy Osbourne, ever heard of him?
Oh.
Chose, let me
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne chose the album as one of his 10 favorite British records of all time.
Nice.
So thanks, Ozzy. That's cool.
Ozzy knows heavy metal.
He does.
He should. Yep. In 2001, Machine Head was mentioned in Q. I don't know what Q magazine is, but anyway, 50 heaviest albums of all time. And in 2007, featured in the Guardian's list of 1,000 albums to hear before you die, which we had talked about that list before. So I think some pretty high praise for this album. I'm most excited to get into talking about the music itself. It's a really interesting album. So that's what I got on backstory, guys.
Awesome. One more fun fact that I found that you didn't mention was that Deep Purple was listed in the 1975 Guinness Book of World Records as the globe's loudest band for a 1972 concert at London's Rainbow Theatre.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that was this tour.
I think, if I remember right, The Who always wanted to break that record.
And they
I
did.
think they did. Yep.
I remember them being listed in the Guinness Book of World
Yep.
Records, and sometime in the 80s when I had a copy of that as being the loudest band in the world, or the loudest concert or something like that. Breaking, I think it was 101 decibels.
And that's why Pete Townsend can't hear anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
I tell you what, that is just not cool, in my opinion. What's the loudest show you guys have ever been at?
Anyone that I didn't have earplugs.
Yeah, well, that's
Right.
truth.
Probably the early ones that I went to, did not thinking like I need to wear
Right.
earplugs, and just knowing going in, well, my ears are going to be ringing at least a day.
Yeah.
And you just go suffer through it. I don't really remember
I had
too
a
many.
3-day ear ringing experience once.
Is that the AC/DC one?
No, Ted Nugent
Oh, yeah.
and the Scorpions.
Uncle Ted likes it loud.
Oh, man. That was the first show I ever went to, and I was, 14 years old or something like that, and had no clue how loud a rock concert was going to be. And I still didn't, I went to several shows after that, didn't put earplugs in.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't start doing that till maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into talking a little bit about the adventure that was the recording process for this
Yes.
album?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an adventure. And you mentioned the place, Lance.
Montreux.
Yes. So it was at a casino, right? That they were going to be recording at. And it was going to be in the winter when things kind of shut down for a while. So they had the place to themselves. and they were going to watch the last concert there, which happened to be
Frank Zappa.
And
the Mothers.
Yes.
And the Mothers of Invention. Mothers of Invention. That's what it was. And I know they were playing the song King Kong because I saw an interview with him with some French reporters.
Okay.
And I heard him doing the translation, but you could kind of hear him telling the story about what happened at the concert. Go ahead.
So one of the reasons that they went to Switzerland was because they could avoid taxes.
That's right. Yeah.
So they were going to save a lot of money that way. They rented a mobile studio from Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there was many mobile studios around at the time, but
Rolling Stones making bank off of that portable studio, probably.
Probably. And
this is like a big Winnebago, right? And they just play it in the Winnebago.
I saw a picture of it. It's actually like a really big moving truck.
Yeah.
Or mid-size moving truck. It's mid-size.
Yeah. So that's how they're going to record. They're going to record in the studio or in this casino because they were never really satisfied with their recordings prior to this. They wanted to get more of that live sound. So they thought, we're going to record the album from a stage so we could get a good live sound.
Yeah.
So anyway, the night before they're going to start recording.
Wait, before you get into that, I think I saw a note too that they were going to do half a live album than two.
That I'm not aware of.
I thought I just saw that earlier today that they were going to record a bunch of songs and then do like a live concert recording because they were entertaining the notion of like performing a live concert and recording that as well so they could have some live tracks then too.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
I don't remember that, but yeah. So anyway, the night before they start recording, they go to this Frank Zappa concert. And if everybody knows the song Smoke on the Water, that song is the story of what happened, where some stupid guy with a flare gun shoots us off in the middle of the concert.
You quoted right from the song too.
All right.
Some stupid with a flare gun.
Yeah.
Goes into the ceiling, which is like a bamboo ceiling. No one really knows about this. It just kind of starts smoldering up there for a while and then eventually starts burning. And at some point, Frank Zappa says something like, I don't want to freak everybody out, but fire!
I can see Frank Zappa doing that.
So they start moving people out of there. They get people out of there. And then the band goes to a restaurant and they're watching the casino burn down. And as this is happening, they're right by Lake, was it Geneva?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this smoky haze going over the water. And he says, Smoke on the Water. That's a cool title. Writes it down on a napkin. And that was kind of the start of that. So now the owner of this casino is feeling kind of guilty because he wants, the band was going to record there. So right away, he's helping them try to find a place where they can record, which is just crazy. I mean, you just lost your casino.
Yeah.
And you're concerned about the band and trying to find a place for them.
Yeah.
So they do find a place to record, but it's in town. It's around mostly retired people because the season's shutting down. Everyone's gone.
I know where this is going.
And they play just a little too loud
in general.
So that didn't go over well. So they had to find another place to do it. So they find a hotel. I don't remember the name of the hotel. Does anyone remember
the Grand Hotel.
The Grand Hotel, which has been shut down for the season. And this is where they decide they're going to record. And this whole time I'm thinking The Shining. I don't know about you guys.
Right.
But so they're going to record from this hotel. And they have the mobile studio outside. They're using mattresses from the hotel to soundproof the place.
Oh, okay.
Running cables everywhere. They said the lighting was too bright in there. So they switched a lot of the light bulbs out to red lights to dim it down.
Oh, okay.
These are all lines that are in Smoke in the Water.
Yeah.
All these little details. Some of the crazy things were they would record in separate rooms, separate areas. Well, if they wanted to hear a playback of the song, they have to walk out to the mobile studio.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Go ahead. Dave.
I have like the transcript of what they were saying about that, because I just watched a video interview, and it's each of them recounting this, and it's cutting between the different people telling the same story.
Okay.
So what was interesting was every time that they would go to listen to a playback, they had to go out of the area where they were recording into a bedroom, out of the bedroom window on a balcony, climb over to another balcony, run down that balcony because it was always snowing because it's winter. Yeah. Past Lake Geneva and past the French Alps they were looking at, back through another bedroom, through another 2 doors onto a landing, which then led to a winding staircase through the hall to the front door of the hotel, then across a courtyard to get to the truck. Up the truck steps, open the door to hear playbacks, and if something was wrong, the engineer would say, well, I guess we do that again.
Yep.
And they go all the way back to do another take.
And so they said it took like 3 to 4 minutes to walk there.
Super convenient. Yep. It sounds super convenient.
The other funny thing was, at first, as they're walking across these balconies, they have the Swiss Alps right there. Yeah. And they're going like, wow, the Swiss Alps is so beautiful. Well, after doing this 3, 4, 5 times, jokingly, they're going like, hey guys, look, the Swiss Alps. It's like, it just got boring after a while.
It's white noise.
Well, the stuff you're talking about with, running back to the mobile to hear, I do believe I read they got to the point where they said, this is not working. So they stopped listening to playback and decided we're just going to play the stuff until we're satisfied.
Yeah. Yep.
So it really is kind of that live album they were wanting to do.
Right. So not knowing if it was right, only in their minds, was this a good take? Was it right? And then they would say yes or no.
That's cool.
It's funny that they didn't have some sort of two-way communication that they could have talked
that's
back
what
and
I was
forth.
thinking.
I don't understand.
Really,
that.
We had
no way.
walkie-talkies back then.
But maybe it is because of their situation. Because, where they were going to be, maybe, that was going to be easy. They didn't have to think about having this two-way communication. Well, now last minute, they originally were going to take 3 weeks to record. They lost a week, so now they got to do it in 2 weeks. It was just rushed. And how lucky that they decided to do this with a mobile studio.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because if they were playing on the casino, recording there, that burns down, now what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was fortunate for them.
Totally.
So just crazy how this even gets done. And then, like I said, to record Smoke on the Water, which is arguably their biggest song ever.
Yeah.
And
it
all happened because of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
To write that song and do that. So,
yep.
Pretty crazy stuff.
Good story, Brian. I like it.
You guys ready to talk the tracks?
Let's talk it.
All right, here we go. I'll leave the rundown on the tracks. We'll circle back to track 1 and start talking about them. It's not going to take very long since there's only 7. We started off with side 1, Highway Star, Maybe I'm a Leo, Pictures of Home, Never Before, and then we flip over to side 2, starting with Smoke on the Water, Lazy, and Space Truckin'. And here we go with Highway Star. Is this like one of the best intro songs on an album?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
Man, just the heaviness of this. I could tell I'm going to like this album a lot.
Yeah.
And I've heard this song before, mainly on, I think it was the intro for Rock Band, I think.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, I remember the kids playing that.
Rock Band video game, cinematic intro. Yeah, they have like some cartoonish characters doing this, flying through the air and stuff.
Man, his vocals at the beginning of this, his vocals throughout I really like, but that big, and I'm not even going to attempt it.
Come on, Lance.
But holy cow, did he sound good.
Yeah. High and just,
man.
I saw the band Chickenfoot, which was Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Chad Smith, Joe Satriani. I saw them live, and they did this song live.
Are you kidding?
And if you know Michael Anthony with those high vocals, he did that scream in the beginning. Wow.
Chills.
Wow.
Oh,
I
totally.
think I want to go find the video of that. That's really cool.
So that was pretty cool.
I did see a little bit of that video.
Yeah.
They played it on some other compilation.
Okay.
Of what was the 40th anniversary edition. And they showed a little bit of a live performance from Chickenfoot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool.
So that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a cool driving beat at the beginning. The vocals, the big intro just lifts you right up. And then, wow, I mean, it goes and it rocks. I think Brian and I were talking a bit earlier today.
Without me?
Well, we sat by each other at
we do it all the time.
At an
Dave.
event. Yeah. The organ in this is so cool too, because it's almost like the organ is the rhythm guitar part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so integral.
Yeah, you'll hear a solo on it, and you go, "Was that guitar?"
Yeah,
you know why? Because he runs part of that through a little Marshall amp.
Yeah,
so he's got like a distorted amp that he's running it through to almost sound like a guitar.
Wow, that is totally wild.
It's cool,
and his style of playing is just so unique.
It is.
It's almost has this classical music feel.
He knows his classical music,
he
too.
Does. He does?
He
literally?
does. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell.
Yeah.
Well, elaborate.
I was just watching kind of a documentary on the making of this album, or a part of it, and he was referring to some classical piece.
Yeah.
He started with this as kind of like a Bach thing or something like that, and he played it slow, and then he like said, okay, this is what it sounds like on the album. And you hear those pieces in that, but he's playing it faster and distorted then.
Mm-hmm.
And so
cool.
it's kind of based on a lot of classical compositions, I think. Some of the pieces anyway.
To me, it's like almost controlled chaos. I mean, it's he goes all over the place in so many different styles, so many different sounds.
Yep.
Yet it's all so cohesive. It's just I can't think of any other keyboardist that does that.
I totally agree. Usually keyboard is just kind of a fill.
Yeah.
Or you
might have a little flash here and there.
Yeah.
But this is an integral part of the band.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it's so fast.
Yeah.
Which just makes it so
but
cool.
that distorted sound like you're talking about through those Marshall amps is just it's so cool. And that's what makes it sound so heavy.
Yep.
I mean, I can't think of heavier keyboards than this.
No. This is the go-to for that for me.
Right.
Definitely. And there are so many cool changes in this song. It doesn't 6 minutes fly right by.
That's the thing with their music, and especially this song.
Yeah.
Is it's so interesting to listen to. It's not, lyrics, chorus.
Yes.
It's and that's probably why it wasn't, a 15 million seller. But I feel like it's music that musicians can appreciate.
Right. Yep.
And I'm not a musician, but I've listened to enough where I probably could be considered a music snob a little bit. But the guitar solo sounds, well, like Brian was saying, it's hard to differentiate between the guitar solo and the keyboard solo sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll emulate each other, or sometimes they'll play together, and it's just really fun to listen to.
Oh, totally.
I think this one, I think a majority of this album was written in the studio or in the hotel. This was one that was written ahead of time. It was written on the bus. They literally wrote it on the bus and debuted it that night at the concert.
Wow.
And it wasn't, I think they said it wasn't in this original final form, but it was a form of it.
Yeah.
And this is the one where somebody is asking Richie Blackmore, is this the one where somebody asked him like, how do you guys write your songs? And Richie was joking around and said, I don't know, how do you write a song? And they just started doing this, like a dun 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 dun. And then I think Ian kind of picked up on that. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there's something actually to that simple little rhythm line.
Right.
And so they just developed it. Bassist Roger Glover said that Highway Star is the ultimate Deep Purple song for him.
Yeah, he should know, right?
Yeah, it's like this is Deep Purple for him.
And Richie Blackmore, he said when he wrote this guitar solo, he wrote it piece for piece,
which is rare for him, right?
Right. Because he wanted it to sound like a speeding car. So this was literally written down. This was a very what do you call it? Well thought out solo. It wasn't like he just jammed a solo and did that. This was very well thought out.
Well, we probably talk more about Blackmore, but I feel like his playing is really precise in his solos. It's never sloppy. It's never, as we were saying before, just fill. Like you got to do a guitar solo. It's like these guys, every one of them in the band is a musician.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they're better than competent musicians. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And how do you not get a ticket driving to this song? I mean, like this and
Gas
Radar
pedal.
Love, you know, or something. You just
Gas
Born
pedal
to be
slowly,
wild. It's like,
slowly depress that gas.
It's like
pedal
you
to
get
the
pulled
floor.
over and said, "Do you know what you're doing?" Of course I know what I was doing. And I was listening to Highway Star.
In a 70s sort of way.
Oh, yeah.
You could get a ticket in a Gremlin.
That's right.
Listen to this song.
Those went over 55.
When you wound them up enough.
You wound them up enough. By the way, this was the third single. And this is probably one of my favorite songs on the album. So,
yeah,
enough on that, I guess.
Probably my favorite of the three popular songs.
The three popular songs?
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Maybe I'm a Leo. Speaking of heavy keyboard, oh man, right? This just jumps right into
And
it,
if you
too.
could let this go a little further, like when it gets into the singing part, that harmony that they have in one part, I just absolutely love.
It's pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Working title is Blues Riff.
Been round the door.
Right here.
I got a big surprise.
That's good.
I love it.
It's good. I wasn't as familiar with this one, but man,
I wasn't
just
at all.
Totally dig the heavy sound that they have with the keyboards on this one.
Yeah.
That's really just so driving.
What was the working title again?
Blues Riff.
Yeah, so I wrote down driven by a very bluesy rock feel, but funky too. I thought kind of elements of some 70s funk. I mean, it definitely has that 70s laid back, funky, bluesy feel. But better than most.
The drums kind of stood out for me on this one a little bit, where he had some really cool fills going along with this one.
He's a very good drummer.
Yeah.
Well, we've already elaborated, or I have.
I never had this album. You know, maybe 15 years ago was probably about the first time I listened to the whole album minus the three big songs.
Yeah.
It's a short album. I mean, as far as songs.
It's like
only
30,
7 songs.
37 minutes.
Yeah. So the other 4 I was not familiar with. And as I started listening to the whole album, some of these songs I wasn't familiar with. Yeah, they were okay. But as I listened to this over and over again, man, I really got into it. And all these songs I was kind of dismissing at first, all of a sudden I wasn't dismissing them. Mm-hmm.
You were paralleling my experience, a couple weeks ago when I started listening to this more in depth,
right?
And not having heard these other songs,
right?
And now I really like them, way more than it's kind of like, oh, this isn't really what I'm used to listening to for Deep Purple, because it was the big 3,
right?
And now these ones are they're very good.
Yeah.
I dig his guitar work on this one as well. It's very laid back kind of solo.
Yeah, real clean.
Yeah.
But
it fits the vibe of the song really well. It was, well, the keyboards, I think we mentioned, it's kind of this crunchy, gritty sort of feel that feels very thick, I guess. Probably
that's a great descriptor.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just really rounds out the sound. I don't know if John Lord has been lauded by critics that much, but I sure would if I was a professional critic, which we are not. We're just
No.
3 guys that like talking music.
Exactly.
But it is a name that I hear on occasion people throw that name out there. So
so who was it that he was with after?
Oh, Whitesnake.
Whitesnake, yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the early Whitesnake stuff.
Yep.
They were,
for probably
he joined
78
He
through
joined
84.
Whitesnake too with David Coverdale.
Yeah.
which makes sense because Coverdale sang with
Later.
Deep Purple
Later on. Yeah.
later. Yeah. So
Oh no, it was before this, wasn't it?
What was before this?
No.
when did Coverdale join Deep Purple? It was
75, I think.
Oh, it was after.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. It was like right before or after, but
I think
after
it was
makes
Burn.
sense. Yes, it was Burn, because I listened to a little bit of that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can hear Coverdale now. I can hear the White Snake guy.
And the engineer of the album, Martin Birch, he engineered this. He also went on to produce a lot of stuff, but some of those people were like Fleetwood Mac, Blue Oyster Cult, Rainbow, Black Sabbath with Dio, Iron Maiden, and
So
White Snake. So there's a lot of crossover with a lot of those bands that he tied into.
Totally.
I think it was him who they were interviewing, talking about this album in that documentary I saw. And he said he has like the notes, the original notes for all like where the buttons and tracks and stuff are. And he said, well, interesting. According to this, there's just one take.
I'm not surprised.
So they might have just warmed up, and then here we go.
Depends on when in the recording process.
Yeah.
You know,
When you look at a lot of these songs, it's just a jam album.
Well,
Yes.
okay,
And
interesting
you
you
guys
should
can-
mention that because and if you listen to their live album, we haven't gotten to the last track on this album, but it's called Space Truckin' on the live Made in Japan, which came out after this. It's like a 20-minute version. They're a jam band.
They're
for
totally
sure.
a jam band.
Yep.
And like we were talking about with them not wanting to go out to the studio to hear playbacks,
Yeah.
you can just see them and they're just going.
Yeah.
You know, they're not having somebody say, all right, cut here, but they're just going. Because obviously they can't communicate back and forth. So
That's right.
So yeah, I can just see them just going on and on and on.
This one I wrote down limited lyrics, which is very minimal. Mm-hmm. I said it's mostly a long, cool jam.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
And
nailed
that's
it.
kind of on a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of got that as I listened to them more and more.
Yeah.
But there's not a ton of like, hey, just lyrics. Let's just jam in all the lyrics. There's taking some sweet breaks here. I mean, this one has a keyboard solo right after the guitar solo, and then later on at the end, it has another guitar solo to finish it off.
Yep.
And it all just flows so well.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, let's move on to Pictures of Home. Whoa. That was a long drum fill to get that going. Since I hadn't heard this album before, as soon as I heard that, I thought, this sounds like the opening from Ozzy's Over the Mountain.
Oh, it does. Totally.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like the drummer from that, like maybe just kind of, I mean, it's maybe a typical fill, but that's
Maybe.
exactly what it reminded me of.
Is that like a double bass kick sort of thing going on there, or what is that?
No, he's just playing. I mean, it's just a lot of toms, I think.
But you can make that sound with the double kick too, right?
I think it's all just kind of mixed in there. I don't know if it's a double kick or not, but I don't think it is.
Well, it's what I wrote.
Lance,
I mean,
you
it's,
said you're not a musician.
no, I know I'm not.
What's a double kick, Lance? Double kick.
I can't show our listeners.
That's right. You should see his feet right now.
Yeah.
His knees are just bouncing up and down.
I mean, that sound, like you said, showed up in Ozzy, and it shows up later in heavy metal, like 80s heavy metal.
Yeah.
That drum sound. So probably the first time that I've ever heard it. I mean, early albums like that. It's a real cool beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
This,
them.
of the three non-big songs, this is my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah. I like how each kind of instrument gets a little spotlight.
Yep. Bass
that little
solo in
bass
there.
solo,
Yep.
and that's kind of down
Yep.
and dirty. And
Last
just-
time you heard a bass solo
Yeah.
in any record. I mean, that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
I wrote the solo. I mean, there's several guitar solos, but the guitars really kind of pull the song along in a way that Eddie Van Halen did too with Van Halen songs. Like the guitar was so integral, and we were talking about keyboards being integral, and they are here too. But it's like it's part of the melody of the song, the guitar.
And I think that's because you're not getting a bunch of overdubs.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's playing the rhythm and stuff, and then going into a solo, and then coming out into the rhythm. And
I think
yeah.
you're right. And Van Halen was the same way.
Right.
He didn't get a ton of overdubs. And that's why it's fun to listen to these kind of
because it's
albums.
live.
Yeah.
They wanted that live feel, and that's what you do when you're playing live.
Yep. I think I mentioned before some of the albums that I used to like that were so overdubbed become very difficult to listen to as I get older because it's just a lot of noise.
Just so many layers.
This album is heavy, but it's not a lot of noise.
I love
when it was at 101 decibels, I bet it was.
You only listened for so long, then everything was just ringing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
There was a really cool part about the 4-minute mark where it comes to a full stop too. And then it continues on. There's just so much drama. They create a lot of cool drama, I think.
Right.
And it's just so cool.
I mean, everyone, like you're saying, bass, drums, guitar, keyboards, everyone is featured, but not one is above another in this. It's
get that
very
feeling.
cohesive sounding band.
I was noticing too, I don't know if you guys notice or if this is true or not. I don't think there's anyone doing background vocals. I think it's all just doubled vocals or Ian backing himself.
Okay,
No one else is listed as being vocals, so it is all Ian.
Because I don't hear like another voice other than
his.
So there is some overdubbing of vocals,
Right.
Obviously, yeah.
Which is
Which is
and
pretty
you
common.
you can hear his vocals doubled a lot.
Yeah,
But the harmonies, I think he's doing his own harmonies.
interesting.
Now that you say that, there is a lot of just doubling his vocals,
Yeah.
which I think helps like that with that thick
That
sound.
thick sound, yep.
And I love it.
Yep.
I totally love it. And that they're not like perfectly in sync either.
Right.
That it's kind of a,
That gives it that
It's not an
stereo
echo.
phase kind of
Yeah.
thing sound
Yeah.
to it.
love it so much.
And I bet you if they didn't double those, it would sound thin.
Compared
When
to
you
everything
compare
else,
it
it's
to
thick.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So kudos to the production team, producers
Of Deep Purple.
themselves.
Of Deep Purple. Way to go, Deep
They
Purple.
knew what they were doing.
You did it, guys.
I got a good idea. Here's what we should do.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Never Before, last song on side one. This is an interesting little intro. Get you a little groovy.
My first comment on this was, get the funk out. Get the funk out my face.
Well, are we recording us right
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
now? Okay. Interesting you should say that. First thing is...
Hold that thought. Yeah.
So, yeah, Brian says, get the funk out. Well, I wrote, here's another really funky groove. And to me, it's almost like Prince must have listened to this before listen to that guitar playing, that intro.
Oh, yeah.
Prince is very much like that. And, I could hear Prince covering this.
Yeah.
It's that funky. And, there's such a variety of musical styles. I think I said that before. That's what makes this really fun to listen to. It's just not a heavy metal album. It's fun.
Interestingly enough, the band thought this was the most commercial sounding song on the album.
I mean, I could see why in a way.
It's one of the shortest songs on the album.
It is 3:56. Well, if you take off that intro, that intro bothers me a little bit because it is so kind of a weird tack-on thing for me. I mean, it's a cool jam, but I don't know that it really fits the vibe as an intro. Anyway, but that's about 30 seconds. So if you took it off, it'd be about 3:30. I don't know what they did they probably released the whole thing for a single.
Yeah.
But the first single.
And I think this is the first single.
It is the first single. Yeah.
And I don't think it charted. I don't think it did anything.
This song, didn't? Okay.
I don't think so. It was hard finding information on any of their singles charting except Smoke on the Water.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't.
So
find
none of this did, which just goes to show that this was a musician's album.
Yep.
I mean, this was, those deep fans.
A note on the single, the band sent an early copy of the album to Warner Brothers with a note that said, "Hey, this is the hit single." They were pushing it.
No, Warner.
The band did.
Warner?
No.
Did I say Warner Brothers?
Purple Records.
Sorry, Purple Records. Well, they said that
Maybe there was a
executives.
subsidiary.
It could have been. Yeah,
Talk.
that's the note I had. But
Subsidiary.
Substitute.
Subsidiary.
Subsistence?
Subtraction? What's the sub word we're looking
Submarine?
for? No. But they sent the
Subculture?
record company sent a note back saying, "You must be joking. The hit on this is Smoke on the Water, guys." And the band sent back a note and said, "You must be joking. This is the hit." And this is John Lord said, "We honestly didn't think Smoke was hit material. How wrong can you be?"
Well, okay.
Well, don't talk about the song yet.
Yeah, true.
We're going to get there.
Yep.
But from a musician's point of view, I could see why they'd say this. We'll get into Smoke on the Water later, but yeah.
I've never heard it on the radio. I'll tell you that much.
This one?
Yeah.
No.
I thought this song had a really super cool bridge, but the guitar kind of leads the vocals into the bridge, and it's a really interesting part of the song. And then all of a sudden you got another one of these super great Blackmore precise guitar solos, another keyboard solo. Yeah, I mean, if you could call a heavy metal band a jam band, this is emblematic of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. A groovy jam metal song.
Yeah.
I hope we're convincing people to listen to this, because you really should. If you
really
really
should.
fan.
There's so much to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
And like I said, there's such complex arrangements of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get bored. It's not the same thing they repeat 10
Exactly.
times in a row and like throw some lyrics
This
over.
isn't
There's-
prog rock.
No.
They're long songs, but it's not prog.
Yeah.
Lance, do you agree?
No, it's not prog. It has some elements, but
I think that's because of the length.
yeah, probably. It's definitely not pop rock.
No. Nope.
There's not a lot of pop element to this at all. Like Dave was saying, it's not, the formulaic verse, chorus,
Right.
solo, verse, chorus.
Yeah. There's no formula.
No.
Really from one song to another.
Their formula was jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
And how different can we make each song?
Right.
Unique.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
All right. We ready to flip it over, guys?
Flip it.
Flipper.
Let's get into the big one. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of catchy.
Should make that into a song. Doubling the guitar. We're just gonna play the whole intro because it's kick butt. Bass will drop in. Pacey on the drums. Oh yeah. Oh, even just like a thick bass sound on there, right?
Big time.
Heck of a second side opener, right?
Yes, indeed.
I mean, it's one of the iconic guitar riffs of all time.
Yep.
For sure.
Agreed.
If you ask Ted Nugent, he's the one who invented all the iconic guitar riffs. But
We're not asking Ted.
yeah.
That's for a later show.
I mean, what kid didn't crank the intro to this song and just shake the
right.
walls of their bedroom with their stereo back in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah. So this song was, they said they finished the album, quote, finished it. They needed one more song. So kind of in a panic, they wrote this song quickly. So they kind of have the guitar riff. They had to, write the lyrics. Well, they had this just amazing experience that literally just happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably got to be about the most autobiographical song ever.
Yeah.
I was never aware of this, growing up because I remember the song from when I was younger, a young teen. You hear it all the time on rock radio.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hear bits and pieces of the song, but I didn't know the story. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Smoke on the Water.
No.
Cool.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa. I knew Frank Zappa from Valley Girl.
Yeah. Why are they mentioning Frank?
Yeah. That's the only way I knew him.
Totally.
And then this
Yep.
song. So, none of this meant much to me.
It does go to prove, or it proves that 3 chords make a pretty good rock song, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it worked for
Yep.
AC/DC forever.
Yep.
And a lot of bands. And what's so ironic about it is the rest of their music isn't that way at all.
Right.
But, it works. It's, again, an iconic riff that, I never took guitar lessons, but could figure out how to play that.
Pretty easy. I
Yep.
think this is probably one of the first ones I learned too.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about the story about it, though, I think it was John Lord talking on that documentary too, saying we still have to explain the story to people modern day who don't know what the story was behind this.
Right.
And he said, sometimes I ask, have you listened to the song?
Yeah.
The whole story's there,
Yeah.
but they still have to explain it.
I think originally they thought the title "Smoke on the Water" sounded like a drug song,
Oh, I can see
so
that.
they were kind of a little hesitant to use that at first.
Well, okay, I know what they're referring to, right? I mean, you got the smoking apparatus that's filled with water, and then you smoking.
How would you
would
how
know,
would you
Lance.
that, Lance?
just cut this part out?
Totally not doing that. And
It's legal, you know, guys.
That's right.
Oh, we know. This is the 4th single released.
Crazy.
What?
So
How could you not know this was like?
So what happened was, in the meantime, this album's out. They recorded a live album called "Made in Japan," the double album. They start playing the live version of this song, and then they even recorded another album while "Smoke on the Water" was in the charts and starting to peak. So this song peaked at number 4. I think it was number 4, while a new album had already come out. That's how late in the game they were with this song.
But all due to the live
Due
album.
to the live version.
Yeah.
And as when they released the single, on the flip side was that live version from Made in Japan.
Can you think of another band that happened to?
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. Which live album?
He had a song. What's the one that has the part in it? The live version. Anyway, whatever that was, they released the single. On the flip side was a live version. The live version was what became the hit song for
Okay.
Paul McCartney.
I'm thinking of another 70s band, hard rock band from Rockford, Illinois.
Cheap Trick.
Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick at Budokan
Oh, yeah.
was
I want you
really their breakthrough album in the States. And I Want You to Want Me
Yeah.
was on a previous album called In Color and Black and White. They were in the process of recording or just about to release the album
Dream Police?
No, the one Heaven Tonight,
Heaven Tonight.
which some of those songs showed up on the live album. So there was this real tight window where everything was released and they hit big. So, live albums are awesome, but we just don't get them anymore like we used to. Everybody had live albums
I
back
think-
in the 70s and 80s.
With that Cheap Trick album, they actually held off releasing.
I think they did.
They had the album in the can, but the live album was doing so well that
Right.
they said, okay, we're going to wait
Yep.
till this thing slows down. And it didn't slow down for a while.
Yeah. Still probably their biggest selling album. Anyway, we're not talking about
Yeah.
Cheap Trick, but interesting. I guess what I was saying before is because it's such a simple song structure that I can see why the band would say, as you said, they just kind of threw it together at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was just our filler song.
Right.
We didn't spend a lot of time on this,
Yep.
but
And maybe they thought the
sometimes-
story wasn't mass appealing, would appeal to the masses either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm not totally sure if the story is awesome and it's fun to tell, but
But you loved the song
It's
before you knew the story.
darn
You
right.
loved the
You
song
loved
for
the
probably
guitar.
decades
Yep.
before you understood what the story
Amen.
was.
Correct. Yes. I saw a little note too that said Blackmore said this guitar riff was popular due to being simple and based around 4 notes, comparing it to the opening musical phrasing of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. You can hear a little of that, I guess. Thought that was kind of interesting that he's comparing it to classical music as well. I think these guys are
Right.
just well versed in their musical styles.
Paul McCartney's song was Coming Up.
Oh yeah, good song. I can't say enough about Blackmore's playing. Again, he has this way of doing leads but not being annoying at it. And some guitarists are annoying the way they do their leads. But how about the end? The drums, they had that kind of phaser sound at the end.
I love that.
Which, maybe some other bands are doing it, but this is pretty early to be doing it. It was 1970 when they were recording. Was it 70 or 71? Yeah.
Yeah. And coming out of the guitar solo too, I like how that kind of winds out with that.
Yeah.
It's just, I love it.
It's so good.
Tasty.
It's tasty. All right, moving on to the next song here. This would be a Lazy. It takes a while to get jamming on this one.
Here's where I'm thinking Shining.
Really?
To me, this is kind of horror movie kind of.
I think they kind of
You just listen to this.
drew inspiration from The Hotel. Turning up the distortion. And it sounds like a guitar right there. Right? If you're listening to this on headphones too,
Yeah.
you'll get all the little nuanced stuff going from left to right,
Yep.
right to left. I forget how long this goes on. Probably another minute.
Could be.
It's like a minute and a half. Giving some airplay to their super accomplished keyboardist, honestly.
That's so cool.
I think Eddie Van Halen must have been inspired by his playing through this Marshall amp, because I know and the Cradle Will Rock, he plays keyboards on.
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and it sounds like a guitar. Everybody thought it was a guitar.
Yeah, I
And
thought it
it's-
was for the
it's
longest time too.
It's distorted
Yeah.
through this amp, and that's kind of what we've been talking about with John Lord.
It's about a minute 45 into that before you hear any lyrics. Actually, it's
there's-
4 minutes until you hear lyrics.
Very few lyrics in this. Yep.
I think it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, is it?
It is deep.
I
But
mean,
if you, I was going to say, if you listen to the quality of the recording too, it sounds like literally they're playing like a blues bar band jamming in a club.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they got the sound I think they were after.
Yep.
The live sound.
Totally. It's the music to me is very moody visuals. I mean, I just get all these visuals listening to it. It's really cool.
The Shining is one of them. Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the keyboard at the beginning, again, you mentioned, he said something about having Bach influence or something.
Yeah,
you can totally hear that. But then it's really funky too. This kind of music, your whole being kind of feels it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you get into it in a way that you don't with some other bands. And
You're constantly going like, whoa,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
throughout all these songs.
I'm sitting there tapping my feet and nodding my head listening to this, and the whole thing is a really cool jam.
Yep.
Including a harmonica.
Harmonica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of guitar, bluesy.
And a big wind down at the end. I mean, it's
A long improvised track. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, let's just go, guys.
Yep.
Let's play.
A little over 7 minutes. This is the second single. And I was trying to look for it. Did they have a version that was shorter?
Oh, they had to have. They had to have.
Would they have cut out like the minute 45 intro?
Probably.
Okay.
And amongst other spots, they could
Yeah.
probably.
I mean, music was kind of experimental for some bands back then. Like, you think of Chicago back then too, their early albums, it was very experimental. They'd have their one or two tunes that they'd shorten up for radio. Like, I don't know, does anybody really know what time it is?
Right.
But then the rest of it is just jams. some early Chicago might be fun to
Talking
review.
about editing, I heard listening to Casey Kasem's Top 40, and the only Led Zeppelin song to chart was Whole Lotta Love. And they play that, and it was an edited version. And I have never heard this edited version of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought like Rock and Roll or Black Dog would have charted.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, those were big songs, but again,
I would not have guessed
musicians sort of band, not unlike this.
Yeah. But, Whole Lotta Love was a pretty long song. And they, they even narrowed something like that.
Yeah, from that
to-
standpoint. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
What's the one they played back to back with Live and Love and Made all the time on the radio?
Is that Heartbreaker?
Heartbreaker,
Yeah,
Live and Love
yeah.
and Made. Yeah. Okay.
Rock radio, FM radio, I guess, right?
Yep. All right. Ready to wrap it up here with a little space trucking?
I am. Ooh, that's heavy.
Yes. What? Favorite song on the album? I think this is a cool bookend to the first one we listened to.
Oh, this is Highway Star. This is the space version of Highway Star.
Yep. Heavy grooves. There's a great vocal delivery on this one again.
Yep.
And just a cool, good, like a build up right after the solo back into the chorus. I get chills.
Yeah.
Chills on that one.
The chorus is so dang cool on this song.
Yes.
The only knock I have on this, I maybe mentioned it before, I think the lyrics are a little corny. But it was space exploration time.
It totally
and-
was. This is where you got Space Oddity, all these space songs coming out at this time.
Yep.
People are fascinated by it.
Yep. And because the music is so great, it ages just fine. But I guess I would prefer that than, some gratuitous crap that,
Right.
like maybe some other stuff we've listened to. This album, the lyrics in general, I don't know where Lester Bangs is coming from. I thought they were good lyrics. I mean, from telling a story to just the voice is part of the band, right? It's not,
Totally.
yeah, it's just another instrument in the band. And from that standpoint, I think his singing is great and it complements what everybody else is doing.
And his voice fits this kind of genre so well too. I mean, he's got a cool screechy. He can sing high and just thunderous.
At the end where he's doing that,
Oh,
yeah. Oh, man. And then he goes
Yes.
higher.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just like, wow.
Yep.
Gosh. I don't know how long he was able to sing, but man,
I don't know.
Yeah, was he in a band after Purple?
I don't know.
I don't
not
know
sure.
either. I'd have to look that one up.
Well, then they got back together, and then he left again, and so yeah.
Not sure.
But yeah, just had a little funky guitar in there too, kind of that wow, kind of.
I heard on this one too,
Oh,
listening to
yeah,
it again
yeah.
really closely.
Yep.
There's like little guitar string scratches.
Yeah,
going on,
that- yeah,
like
yep.
during the solo, where
Yep.
it's kind of quieter. It's cool. Just little stuff like that.
Yep.
And they don't add a ton of like special effects or instrumentation
Right.
like that. It's just here and there. Mm-hmm. Don't overdo it. Don't do the same thing on the next song.
Yeah.
So
Have you guys heard the 20-minute version?
no.
On Made in Japan?
Long ago. I have not listened
I'll
to
make a point to listen because that epitomizes what we've been saying is that they're a hard rock jam band.
Yeah.
Have you listened to the remixed version?
Yes.
I have.
I was impressed.
Did you see who else is credited as on the remixing?
It's Dweezil Zappa,
Yeah.
which so the whole smoke on the water thing
Yes.
comes full circle.
Yes.
I purposely did not listen to that for a long time. I listened to the original version. I listened to the remastered version. I listened to those multiple times. And then I was like, okay, I want to check out the remixed version because I wanted to know the difference.
Yeah.
And the difference between a remix and remastered is remastered, they just kind of clean it up. They don't change any of the levels.
Yep.
They don't add anything. It's just clarity. Now remixing, now you're taking all the original tracks, You're maybe moving some stuff around. You're raising levels up and down.
Adding some more layers of vocals.
Yeah.
Vocal
But
echo
all
or something.
within-
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
I'll
within
get
what
into
they,
that.
adding effects.
Yeah.
Getting all that kind of stuff in there. And it was fun. It almost made it like you were listening to an old album for the first time.
Some of it was,
Yeah.
for me at least.
so maybe if you're going to listen to this, listen to the original first,
Yeah.
I would say.
I'd say so.
And listen to it a lot and then go to the remix.
Yeah.
The remix is cool in its own right, but when I first listened to the intro to Highway Star and I thought, well, here he is layering some of the vocals, the big whoa,
Yeah, more, right?
and you hear it here and then it's added and it's added and it's like, it's fine, but it's not the same. So I'm not going to knock it. And Dweezil Zappa did a great job because it does give a different feel to it. Not in a way that it drastically changes it, but you are going to have to decide for yourself which one you like better. And maybe you won't like either one better. Maybe it's another version.
I liked that there was a lot of stuff that was a little more buried in the original ones, and he brought those levels up, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot more to that. Even though there was a ton to begin with, now there's like even more.
Yeah. I noticed that as well.
Lots of stuff you just never heard. So that was kind of cool.
Any final thoughts before I give a little wrap-up commentary here?
The only knock on that song, I would say, well, no, I had one before with the lyrics, but it's too cool of a song to have a fade-out ending.
Yeah.
The way they jam, but fade-out endings were...
Can't you see them writing this? Okay, guys, throw me any space term you got. Just anything. What do you got?
Yeah.
I'll work
Mars!
it in. I'll work it in.
Venus! All right, I found this, which kind of summed it up nicely for me as I was listening to this. This is from ClassicRockReview.com. Musically, the album seems to strike the perfect balance between accessible hard rock and instrumental jams. Just about every track contains multiple leads showcasing the music talents of guitarist Richie Blackmore and keyboard virtuoso John Lord, while remaining relatively short, upbeat, and melodic. This proved to be a potent formula for 1972 hard rock. Oh, something else I was going to mention too. They're labeled as kind of one of the big three early trendsetters for hard rock. Yes,
I
them,
believe
Black
that.
Sabbath, and Led Zeppelin.
Yep, I was
So to
gonna
be
guess
mentioned,
that.
to be mentioned in that company, that's pretty big.
And I even saw like the comparison. This is like early speed metal in a sense.
Yeah,
So, bands like Motorhead or maybe even Metallica later on kind of draw from this.
well, on that anniversary 40th edition, Metallica did play on that one. They played one of the songs that wasn't on this album, but it was a B-side. I think it got popular.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about that.
No.
Yeah. When a Blind Man Cries.
Yeah.
Which, that was a B-side to one of them. And I can see why that wouldn't have fit in this album.
It didn't
was
for
really
me.
slow,
Yep.
bluesy kind of a song. But
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, time to give our personal rating this album, 0 to 10. Where do you stand on this one? We'll start with Lance.
I did my rating system with each of the 7 songs. Was 7? I think it was 7.
Yep.
Correct.
And man, it was pretty close to a 10. 9.5 for me.
Oof.
It's just, for me, that good. I will be coming back to this more than I did before even. I mean, I knew the album, listened to it, but that's the fun of this show is that you get to listen to it a little more
It's
critically.
the deep dive.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not just casually listening to it. You're listening to it with purpose.
Yep.
Which we hope inspires all our listeners
Yeah.
to take that deep dive, because there's lots of stuff that you've probably never heard and you've been missing all these years and you didn't realize that you needed it.
Yep. Exactly. Where do you stand, Brian?
Man, this album grew on me like crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, the first time I listened, I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And then each time I listened to it again, I just got more and more into it. And then I was really excited, these songs that I was never familiar with that were becoming some of my favorite songs. I'm giving it a 9.
9 for Brian. Man, I feel a little peer pressure. I was getting a little lower than you guys here. I I'm in the same boat you are, as not hearing those other songs at all. But once you got into them, the hook sank a little deeper and deeper every time I listened to that. So I grew to like them more and more, and they would just pop in my head randomly throughout the day. And maybe that was just because I was listening to it so much. It is an 8 for me. And that is higher than the Bon Jovi album I just listened to last episode too.
Oh,
So
well, it better be.
yeah.
There's no skippers on here for me.
No. Lyrically, I think this is so much better than the Bon Jovi album we did last time too. I just think these are just more solid lyrics. And, compared to a lot of the 80s stuff we listened to before rated, I mean, I do like the lyrics on this one more. There's a lot more content and meat to them, which
Although
I thought was...
some of them I thought we just need to have, and not that they were bad lyrics, but just to get a little lyric on here, but it was just sort of a vehicle to get to the jams.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I guess I better do my part in here.
Yeah.
And,
We gotta get, and that's why, you got 4.5 minutes into a song I guess we should maybe throw a few vocals on here, and then it's just some really short lines, and then more jamming.
Yep.
I think that's kind of what I was saying is everyone has a place in the band, and everyone seems to be an equal contributor. And you've got keyboards featured for 30 seconds, guitar for 30 seconds, you got the vocals that are 30 seconds, and all of a sudden you've got a song. Not that a song's a minute 30, but you get the point.
Then 8 minutes fly by, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they should.
I don't think I've ever said this, and I don't know that I'd ever say this again, but I think the keyboards were the hero of the album.
They were, yeah.
I'm a little shocked to hear you say that, but I kind of half agree there. I think...
I mean,
Richie
the guitar
Black-
work is amazing.
Yeah.
That's all great, but
Lord and Blackmore are like
Yeah.
equals
Man.
Yes.
on this,
Yeah.
right? And they just play off each other so well.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like anybody wants to be more in the spotlight than in the other.
Yep.
Like you mentioned before, Lance. They just kind of, they get along.
They
At this time anyway.
very
Right.
complimentary playing.
That's right. All right. That's the review, guys. All right. It's time for Remember When, a segment where I ask Brian and Lance their thoughts about something we grew up with but may no longer be around today. Today's topic, we've skated around this one in a few past episodes, but haven't discussed it anything at length. Roller skating.
Oh, man. Yeah.
We've mentioned it. What are your favorite roller skating memories?
First time I ever held hands with a girl.
that was, yes.
Wow.
The one of the special, where the girl comes over and grabs a guy and you
Yep. Slow skate,
and
everyone.
I was like 8 and she was like 12. And I didn't know who it was. But I'm like, whoa, I like this. So, yeah. And then, a lot of Friday nights, I wasn't a rink rat per se, but
Rink rat.
rink rat.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Dave.
I did not hear that term.
You've never heard that term?
No.
Boy,
Gym rat.
Well, it's because he wasn't one.
I wasn't a rink rat. No.
didn't have any hockey rinks in Alaska growing up too.
We did. Never referred to ourselves as a rink rat, though.
Must be in Minnesota.
Anyway.
But yeah, spent plenty of time. And, the fun was, besides holding hands with a girl, was hearing a lot of music.
Yes.
Yeah. And the DJ in the corner and requesting songs. And
That was what it all revolved around. I mean,
Yeah,
the music.
Yeah.
That was what you were waiting to hear. All that stuff.
You probably heard a lot of stuff you didn't hear on the radio.
I think it was probably most of the stuff we did hear on the radio.
Oh, really? Okay.
only once do I remember skating something that was not a radio song. This was in high school, homecoming roller skating party for our high school. And a bunch of us music nerds wanted to hear Rush. It's like,
Ooh.
you're going to hear Rush.
Rush.
Yeah.
But guess what? They played Rush for us. It was Limelight.
Yeah.
Great tune.
I mean, my guess is those DJs, from what I remember, they didn't have albums. They had singles with them.
Yep.
You're playing singles, you're going to be hearing the popular songs.
True.
So, and Limelight, I believe, was a single.
Yep.
So that's, I'm with Lance. The holding a girl's hand. I know at our school, you were not allowed to hold hands at school.
Oh.
But at the night that you went to the roller skating rink with the school, you could hold hands.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty big big deal with that one.
Did you guys have lockers that you could like throw a quarter in and get a little key with
Yeah.
a pin on it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you could like pin that on your jeans or whatever.
It really was a cool night. Here you're roller skating, you're listening to good music.
Yep.
You're holding a girl's hand,
And
there's
video games.
video games in the corner.
Yes.
Yep.
And junk food too. You get
and
stuff at
junk
the
food.
concessions like hot
Good stuff
dog
like
or
nachos.
pizza. And nachos. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Nachos, pop.
So
You know,
this is funny that you're talking about this roller skating because my daughter Sarah is a teacher at a school, and today they had some company bring in roller skates to the school, and they're roller skating in the gym.
That's
Just
crazy.
like the old roller rinks.
I still want to go over there now.
I was like, what a brilliant idea. The only thing that was so bad about it, they were all wearing helmets.
Well, if they've never roller skated before,
Oh, what about you? When you learned to roller
I wore a
skate,
helmet.
were you wearing a helmet?
I wore a helmet and body pads. No, I'm totally kidding.
I
never
know
wore
you're
that.
kidding. They didn't even have them back then.
We were doing at my grandma's. She had an old pair of like metal roller skates.
Oh, yeah.
that
I
you
used
were
to have a
riding
pair of those.
on the street. Yeah, they were kind of
Yeah.
the clip-on ones. Yeah,
Those
The
are
keys.
terrible.
did you guys own?
Yeah, they were so loud.
Yes, yes, they were horrible.
Brain is just rattled by the time you're done.
Did you guys ever own a pair of roller skates?
I did.
You did too.
I had some with the metal ones. Those are kind
Yeah.
of like a high top one. And then I got ones that were like a tennis shoe. I remember they were blue, and then they had the good rubber wheels on
Yes, I had a pair of blue and yellow.
them. Those things they're smooth.
Yes,
These glided.
I'm just remembering something else too. I somehow got away with this. Picking up my dad at the airport, I convinced my mom, "Can I wear my roller skates at the airport?"
In the airport?
I wore them in the airport.
Oh
on that
my
really
gosh.
tight, small carpet.
Yeah. Oh,
And it was so smooth.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And I even have a security guard came up to me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Just roller skate." "All right, well, be careful." Sent me on my way. And I was like, this is awesome. Oh, it's so great.
so you were like ahead of the game with those shoes that had the little wheel that you
The
see-
wheelies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were doing that before
Totally
that.
doing that.
That's cool. And then Dave and I were talking about too how the walls used to be carpeted. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember that.
I was telling Brian about one
Nice and
time
safe.
at one of the roller rinks. You know, they used to like stop every once in a while, every maybe an hour, and do racing.
Oh.
They would have people race like a lap around there or whatever. And there was a couple guys who got tangled up and they were flying and they were in a corner and they kind of skidded into each other and then ended up against the wall, like slamming hard, like it was a body check from a hockey.
Scary.
Horrible
So
sound,
awesome.
but it was dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Teeth were flying.
maybe. I don't know.
And then for a song, they would do the reverse.
Reverse skate.
Reverse
I hated
skate.
that.
Yes. Oh, and then they
I
had
couldn't-
kind of a.
Couldn't cross over doing that.
Lance is going into the wall.
Yeah.
You see,
make the
that's
turn.
where hockey skating came into play because I was a really good
Right.
hockey skater
So you
growing
could do
up,
it.
so I could do both sides. Yep, backwards,
pretty
all that
good.
good stuff.
Yeah,
You
I
could skate
was
backwards.
a decent roller skater too.
And then
Just
you'd
like-
You
have
couldn't do a
the,
left crossover. Though.
Left crossovers are not easy.
No, if you're right-handed, I guess maybe, or you're just used to that.
I always
Left
remember.
crossover, bringing your left foot over. Yeah,
Correct,
no, that
yeah.
was tough.
Yeah,
I remember that there would always be some guy who was like the really good skater.
Yep.
And doing all these kind of tricks and stuff, and you kind of thought it was really cool, but you kind of made fun of him too because it's like, what are you doing?
there were guys with speed skates, and that I wanted speed skates for the longest time because the wheels were a little bit wider
Yeah.
too for like racing, and they
Yeah.
had like a higher toe stop.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't drag when you laid it out.
Yeah.
They were the bomb.
Nice.
They were too expensive though when you're 10. Mom's not going to buy you $100 pair of speed skates.
Yeah.
I never had a pair of roller skates, but I had roller blades when
Yeah.
those.
Oh,
the
see, I never
rollerblade
had those.
brand. Those are really big. in
Inline
Minnesota.
skates.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys, that will do it for today. In our next episode, we'll be diving into some college rock with the REM album Green, which
wow,
happens
forgot
to
about
not be
that.
green, it's orange. And we'll
Right.
explain that in the episode. If you missed our previous episode, we talked about the Bon Jovi album Slippery When Wet and had a Remember When segment on ice cream trucks. I could really go for a push-up right now, but I'm kind of full from that root beer float earlier, so I guess I had my fair share of ice cream. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, be sure to go back and check it out.
We hope you enjoyed this fun episode about Deep Purple Machine Head. We sure did.
Yeah.
Doing this one. And if you would, please do us a favor and share the episode link with a friend to help spread the word about our fun little podcast called When Records Ruled. And also, as we always say, do us a favor and send us your suggestions about an album or maybe a topic. Send it to Dave because he's the one that surprises us all the time.
Just send a message through one of our social media channels.
There you go.
Because Dave's the only one that checks them. Probably.
Probably. Yes.
And maybe we'll take your suggestion and use it in a future episode.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
We'll see. And if you liked this episode, please follow us and leave us a review of the show or any of the other shows that you may have listened to on your favorite podcast listening app. The more stars that you could give us in our review, the happier we are.
Yes.
Dave's smile is from ear to ear. You can also follow us and leave us comments on Instagram and Facebook at When Records Ruled, where you can see pictures of us and cool album covers that Dave's going to create. It's a new little project that he has to do. It takes him probably 2-3 hours a piece. What's the blank stare, Dave?
I don't know. Depending on the album, I guess. Yeah.
Dave creates some pretty cool stuff.
It's a labor of love.
Go look at it. He'll
Yeah.
be disappointed if you don't.
Yeah.
Go look at it, like it, share it, tell your friends,
Right. Exactly.
print it out, put it on your bedroom wall.
Send us your donations.
Yes, do that too.
Subscribe. It's only $49.95 a year.
Wow.
Oh, wait a minute. That's something else.
A lot of inflation right
That's
there.
the lifetime membership, I think.
Yeah.
All right, check out our Spotify playlist where Dave's going to put together this album and any of the previous albums and songs that we've had in the past.
Yep.
So you can do a quick little easy get to. And remember, we are not professional music critics,
But we're getting close. This episode, man,
but still,
mind.
we're just three guys who like talking music.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See ya.